In the previous chapter, we discussed a simple definition of democracy. Democracy is a form of government in which the rulers are elected by the people. Let's first analyze the word rulers. Pakistan has a democratically elected government till October 1999, when General Pervez Musharraf led a military coup. A coup is the sudden, unconstitutional deposition of a legitimate government. A coup is usually led by a small group of the existing state establishment, typically the military, to replace the deposed government with another, either civil or military. After the coup in October 1999, General Musharraf declared himself the chief executive of the country. Later, he changed his own designation to president. In 2002, he held a referendum that granted him a 5-year extension. However, it was alleged that there had been a fraud in the referendum. A referendum is a direct vote in which the electorate is asked to either accept or reject a proposal. To further strengthen his power, Pervez Musharraf's next step was to amend the Constitution of Pakistan. He did this by issuing a legal framework order that gave the President the authority to dismiss the national or provincial assemblies. Elections were then held to the national and state assemblies. Thus, Pakistan had elected representatives with some powers. However, the work of the civilian cabinet was supervised by a National Security Council dominated by military officers. The military officers and General Musharraf himself had the power to override any decisions made by the civilian cabinet. Thus, the elected representatives were not the real rulers of Pakistan. Similarly, many dictatorships and monarchies have an elected parliament and government, with the real power vesting in the people not elected. If you recall the power of the USSR in communist Poland and that of the US in contemporary Iraq, the real power vested with another country in these cases. Therefore, these also cannot be regarded as people's rule or democracies. From all these examples, it is clear that in a democracy, the elected representatives of the people should have the final decision-making power. This is the first feature of democracy. Let's move on to another key word, elections. We'll analyze the example of a country where elections are held regularly, China. China has elections every 5 years. Every time the people elect the country's parliament, called Chungao Renmin Daibiao Tahui, or the National People's Congress. This parliament has almost 3,000 members from various parts of China and holds the power to appoint the presidency of the country. Some members are elected by the army. So far, it sounds like a democracy. However, not everyone can contest in these elections. Every candidate, before contesting, needs to be approved by the Chinese Communist Party. In 2002-2003, to contest elections, the candidates needed to be members of the Chinese Communist Party or one of the 8 smaller allied parties. Result? the Communist Party forms the government every time. Similarly, every 6 years, Mexico holds elections to elect its president. Until 2000, every election was won by a party called the PRI, or the Institutional Revolutionary Party. This was not because the PRI was the most popular party. The PRI won by using a number of dirty tricks. For example, all government employees and the teachers and parents of students in government schools were compelled to attend PRI meetings and vote for them. The media was also in cahoots with the PRI, reporting activities of opposition parties only to criticize them. The PRI even shifted polling booths and used large amounts of money for its candidates. So, in effect, though Mexico has never been under military or a dictator's rule, the Mexicans didn't really have a proper choice in selecting their representatives. Neither of the cases we just examined can be considered examples of people electing their rulers. The foundation of a democracy is free and fair elections, in which the ruling party also faces a fair chance of losing. That is the second feature of a democracy. Let's move on to the third and the most important keyword: people. Even today, there are many places where the equal right to vote is denied. We'll look at some examples here. The first example is Saudi Arabia, where women are not allowed to vote. Another example is Estonia, where the citizenship rules make it difficult for people belonging to the Russian minority to gain the right to vote. Finally, let's look at Fiji, where the electoral system gives more value to the vote of an ethnic Fiji and less to that of an Indian Fijian. These countries cannot really be qualified as democracies because political equality for citizens is lacking. Thus, in a democracy, all adults who are citizens of the country should be allowed to vote, each vote having equal value. What happens if the popular government turns out to be undemocratic? It is possible for popular leaders to be autocratic as well, as has been seen in a number of case studies. Zimbabwe was under white minority rule till it attained independence in 1980. Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, ZANU-PF, the party that led the freedom struggle, has ruled Zimbabwe since then. The leader of the Patriotic Front is Robert Mugabe, who changed the constitution, banned protests, harassed the opposition, controlled the media, and influenced the judiciary. Thus, though elections were held regularly, they were always won by the Patriotic Front. Clearly, popular approval of the rulers is necessary in a democracy, but it is not enough to categorize a country as a democracy. In a democracy, before the elections, adequate leeway needs to be given for normal political activity and opposition. The citizens should be free to think and form opinions, to be able to express these opinions in public, form associations, and take other political actions. Additionally, all rights should apply to everyone equally. Finally, there should be an independent judiciary to protect the rights of the citizens without any political pressure. Now, let's consider the conditions that apply to the way a government is run after an election. Winning an election does not entitle a democratic government to do whatever it likes. The government in power needs to respect and honor the guarantees to the minorities. Additionally, major decisions cannot be taken without going through a number of consultations at every step. All office bearers are assigned certain rights and responsibilities by the Constitution as well as the law. They are accountable for fulfilling their responsibilities to the public as well as to other independent officials. Thus, we can deduce that a democratic government rules within the limits set by the constitutional law and the citizens' rights. That is the fourth and final feature of a democracy.